Good evening, everyone. My name is Paulo, not to be confused with Hall. We have very similar names. And today I'm going to tell you my story about how I joined a new company using a programming language that I've never used before and used AI to support myself in that process and what were the results. But before we start the presentation of the topic itself, a little bit about myself. So what do I do? Well, I practice historical European martial arts. Here you see me pictured in orange, obviously. And while this is an amazing, energizing, fulfilling hobby, it doesn't really pay the bills. So in my non-historical martial arts time, I work as a software developer. I started my career by graduating the Lewagon Tokyo Web Development Bootcamp back in 2019 for Ruby on Rails. And I had been working in Ruby on Rails ever since, until last year, 2025, when I switched to the current company. And since the beginning of my journey, I was essentially anti-AI. Like even back in the time when we had like GitHub Copilot using like those AI suggestions where you would write the name of a function or a method and they were like, well, how would you let me fill it up for you? I was like, no, turn it off. It's like, you're just distracting me. I'm going to write it by myself. Thank you very much. And I never believed it would take off. I always believed like we would write code by ourselves. Our job was secure. We had nothing to worry about. The switch came later on at one company where I had to write a new feature in Terraform. Now, I wasn't very experienced with Terraform, and the documentation is not exactly the best. And I was struggling to get that feature working. Like reading documentation, trying the things, it's still not working. What the hell is going on? Finally, I gave up and I used our company provided AI to be like, hey, I want to do this. How do I do it? Use these features. Yes, I've tried it. It's not working. That's because you're on the wrong version of Terraform locally. Oh. And that's when essentially the change came and I've started using AI more like asking questions, not really yet letting it write the code fully, but I was leaning more and more on it. Then came my application to Kraken. I was like, okay, I've heard this company is wonderful. I totally would like to work there, but they use Python and I never worked with Python. Okay, I'm going to try to learn some of Python by myself, like Python and Django, try to do some little bit, take like exercises on the side before applying. Okay, here comes the take-home assignment. And for the take-home assignment, I essentially tried to build it as if I would be building a Ruby on Rails application, using AI to be like, hey, I want to do this. This is how I would do it in Rails. How would you do it in Django? And it would give me like some suggestions. I would double check it with documentation and ended up implementing it. This did not work exactly as hoped. I had applied for a senior position and ended up getting demoted to a mid-level engineer. And the feedback was very clearly like, you know what you want to do, you just don't know Django. And my friend who referred me to the company was also like, yeah, I checked your take-home assignment. What the hell were you doing? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. So with that feedback, I was like, okay, luckily I managed to get the job. I joined the company, but here I was like, I really want to keep this role. I don't like current situation is a little bit unstable. I don't want to get back into job hunting. I'm going to do my best to pass the probation period. And for that, I decided I'm going to rely fully on AI. Like anything that I can do to show I'm productive, I'm a valued member of the company, please, please, please keep me. So which workflow did I use to show this productivity? Here's the step-by-step process where I essentially take the contents of the ticket, copy it into our AI in plan mode. That gives me the plan for it. I just review, okay, this makes sense, doesn't make sense, change some parts of it. Fine, I like it, let's go and implement. Review the implementation output, like Does the code make sense? Okay. Then I run manually all the linting tests and do the commits by writing the commit messages as well. That's essentially a check for myself of like, do I understand exactly what is going on here? If someone else is going to ask me about it. After doing all this part, before pushing and asking a person for review, I will export the commits differences and ask AI, okay, check this folder. Here's the changes that I've made. Here was the original ticket description. Review it. Like, am I doing what the ticket is expecting to do? Many times it will find things that were missed originally. So I'll go back, do some changes, rebase, fix up all that is needed. Finally, when we'll do a couple more of those review flows, finally, when everything looks more or less okay, great. I go ahead and push for human review. Now, in all of these steps, there are like some my personal instructions of focus on this, ignore this part, like check these other places for reference that have been evolving over time. But essentially, it's most of the work is still being done by AI. So, has this been successful? Question mark. Let's try to look a little bit at the data. And what I want you to focus on first is like, how can we measure how successful, how productive am I being? Let's maybe take a look at how many PRs I've opened on average and other members have opened on average in the first 6 months at the company. Why 6 months? Because that is the probation period. So let's check some of my teammates based on their level. How many PRs on average they open? It's like, okay, for mid-level it's around 5. Senior also was roughly 5. We had one staff member who was much higher on that level. So it was like, okay, this is what I need to target. And the result, no, that's not the result yet. Those first 3 were just within my team. And I wanted to focus on those because that's whom am I going to be compared with primarily. You're joining this team. These are the people who work in the same area. This is what we can compare the best against. But other people from the same department might also be brought in for comparison. So what is the average within that level? So I took a couple of other people who had joined in the last 2 years and used to calculate what is the average number of open PRs to get this number. So more or less, roughly, we're in the same area, rounded 4.5 for a mid, 5.66 for a senior, and our staff member is like at 7.6. Compared to those, I was at a roughly 7 average PRs open in the first 6 months. Note, this is also including a 2-week period where I joined the company where I didn't have access to GitHub because of some issues that were in the procurement area that I'm not going to go in depth, and including an almost 1-month holiday that I took like around Christmas to go back home. So number should be higher. I didn't want to mess up with the actual result because at the end of the day, how much did I work in this period? This is what the result was. But okay, PRs doesn't really give us a full picture because I can have a lot of PRs if I open just one PR with one line of change like fix typo or add comment explanation. So how impactful was the work that I was actually making? So maybe let's take a look at commits, because at our company, we follow the atomic commit proc methodology of like any change that you do, let's try to contain that change within a single commit so we can go and deploy only that one commit without destroying production. So looking at average commits, we see roughly more or less the same numbers, where mids we are between 7 and 9, senior between 9 and 10, and our staff member is at 12. And here we see a much bigger difference where I was merging on average 15 commits per month. So, okay, a lot of PRs, a lot of commits, like those PRs are quite complex. What is the quality, however? It's very easy with AI to churn a lot of code. Is that code any good? I couldn't go and check very much like how much have the things broken. I do have a rough idea of how much of my code has broken things, but I cannot really compare with other members, nor openly share about it. But what were the comments written by other humans saying like, hey, this is not good, go ahead and change it? This might give us a rough idea of how good the first version of the code that has been shared was. So looking at the number of comments, again, more or less what we would expect. The higher the seniority, the fewer number of the comments. I don't know exactly what our senior member was doing in our team. Maybe he was taking like a much more slower methodic approach of I'm pushing fewer PRs, but I'm making sure those PRs are of very high quality. That's why he was getting fewer comments. But in general, like, okay, 8 comments for mid-level developers, around 5 for the others. And in my case, it was 6. So not as bad as a regular mid-level developer, but definitely not at senior level or those crazy numbers that we've seen in the past. But okay, taking all of this together, success. A lot of PRs, very complex, very high output, like very useful, very valuable to the company. But is that the whole picture? Well, from the viewpoint of quality, we've already seen like one aspect of that. Another aspect was also the mention like, well, how much did the AI code actually break production? The cost is another one that is worth considering. I unfortunately do not have visibility into how much did my AI output cost compared to other members, so I cannot even share about it. But a thing that I can share about is sort of this self-evaluation was that my big reliance on AI has caused me a very reduced understanding. A reduced understanding in several areas. First of all, the programming language itself. After 3 months of studying at a bootcamp, I was at a level where I was like, okay, like I can write some features. I can launch some simple applications from scratch. Nothing amazing. Like I still don't have a lot of the experience that I ended up building over the years. But with a couple of simple Google searches, I could build things and show them. I am now at my current company for like 9 months. I still would not be able to write a single feature in Django, like without using AI or like extensive Googling or other support. Not only do I not understand the language yet, I also don't have such a clear picture of the code base, where most of the things, the flow was, hey, here's the ticket, go and implement it. I did not do the work myself to try and understand what are all the moving parts and just let AI take care of that. And finally, it was also the context itself of, as mentioned, like the different parts of the changes, how does one influence the other, what are the business decisions and all of that. And this becomes an issue, or has become an issue, also because the work that I do is not just coding. There are a lot of parts where I have to be answering questions from other developers, checking bugs, why is this not working, debugging it either myself or with AI, but AI does not have access to the testing environment and does not have context of other parts of the code base as well. Discussing about potential features, things that we would like to bring in. All of this I'm contributing far less than other members because just I did not go through the effort of trying to understand it myself. Now, what would be the alternatives then? If I went back in time, I'm joining the same company, I want to be productive and I want to deal with the current problems that I figured out after this 9 months. Well, I could go back to maybe just not using AI and biting the bullet. It's like, screw this, I'm just going to do everything manually as I used to do before. My output is going to be awful, but I'm just going to pray that everything will go well and they will keep me. But even while the company does support going like fully anti-AI, like everything manually, it is, even for my personal projects, I'm not at this stage anymore. I am at a point where I don't enjoy writing coding as much as I used in the past. I prefer just reviewing and thinking about the different puzzle blocks, how they connect with each other. So this would not really be that realistic for me. But other potential ones, and these are some solutions that some of my teammates have taken, it's like, okay, what if instead absolute no AI would just reduce the level of reliance on it? Our team's approach is like, I use AI for planning, but I still do all the coding manually. I became a software developer because I like to code. I don't want AI to take away the parts that I enjoy. I want to use AI for the parts that I don't enjoy. Our staff developer member, he uses AI to understand the code base. Because like whenever he has to implement a feature, instead of going through this massive code base of like millions of lines of code and trying to find by himself like what needs to be done where, he asks AI, it's like, okay, this is what is the ticket request, where would this be at? What is this communicating with? What would happen if I changed this to that? And once he has gotten enough understanding like this, then he goes ahead and does his own planning and writing of the code. And finally, another opportunity would just be use AI only for the review part. Like do your own planning, your own understanding, try something, the AI will review it and be like, hey, you're not actually implementing what you should be implementing, or you did not consider this part. Okay, let me go and rewrite it by myself. I do not know which ones of these would actually serve, but I welcome all of you to please try whatever works out. And let's explore how things will continue. Thank you.